I'm Gerry Savage, and this is The Savage Edge. My things have changed, haven't they? You've heard that before, right? I have. I can remember my parents saying that. My things sure have changed. Boy, things have sure changed. Things aren't like they used to be. Boy, I wish I could go back. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I saw some interesting social media this last week, and some of you may have seen it. It's little skits on welcome back to a certain decade. You know, welcome back to 1975. Welcome back to 1984. And they compare their decade or their year to 2025. You know, how, for instance, it's basically kids out playing. So kids riding their bikes all day, going out and being just playing baseball all day out in the street, or we're on computers all day, in cell phones all day, because we didn't have them back then, right? So, boy, things have sure changed. And so then the little caveat is that, you want to stay in 1985, or do you want to stay in go back to 2025? Well, there's definitely some things that I would like to go back to, but there's definitely some things today that I just wouldn't want to give up. Let's face it, technology has really advanced our society and continues to advance our society. There is a lot of positive, and there's some things that we need to be cautious about. Some of those things we need to be cautious about are simply this: are how much time are we spending together? I mean, family get-togethers. If you go to a family get-together, look around the room. Are you actually having a conversation, or are people sitting in the same room? Are they buried in their cell phones? Are they looking at social media? Where's the conversation gone? You see any old show. I don't know if you've ever seen an old broadcast of the Waltons, for instance, where in World War II they had a radio in the living room and they were sitting around waiting for a certain broadcast. I know growing up on my grandfather's farm up in Skowhegan, Maine, when we were up there on school vacations and I was up there for the summers, I think the world stopped at my grandfather's farm at 12 o'clock. You know why? Not only because it was lunchtime and my grandfather always came in to have lunch with my grandmother. We'd come in from the barn or the garden or whatever we were doing. And what would go on? They had a radio, a transistor radio on top of the refrigerator with an antenna. And it would come on, and the next thing you know is, "This is Paul Harvey. Good day." So some of you might remember the Paul Harvey show. And if I'm speaking to people that are a lot younger than me, then that was something in the past. But what it did is it brought people together. And while I think social media, while I think technology can bring people together, I also think it can separate us and bring us apart. Now, things are really instantaneous today. Even Amazon. You can place an Amazon order today and maybe have it this afternoon or tomorrow morning, for the most part. Things are instantaneous. There's no anticipation of having to wait for anything today. But we talk about family and getting together. And we talk about, what does it mean to actually strengthen your relationships? You've got to have communication, right? So let me transition this for us a little bit. So we're in the world of sales and business, right? And that's all great. Things have changed. Boy, things have changed, haven't they? Let's go back to 2020. When I wrote the 4 Pillars of Sales, it was released in March of 2020. About to do another update for that book because we need to talk about the 4 pillars in the world of AI and the changing technology. Boy, things have changed, right? Seriously though, when I wrote that book, we were still traveling. The world didn't shut down till shortly after that, when we stopped traveling and we were wearing masks and everything else. And working remotely with Zoom, and then later Google Meet was the norm, right? And now it is the norm. Hybrid jobs are the norm today. I mean, I can drive down the street by my house where I can see old, I say old, but office buildings where, an attorney used to be there, or, some other consumer-related business, and they're not there anymore. They're not occupying those big spaces. So why? Because we've become virtual at scale. Now, I did a little bit of research on travel because I thought travel would go way down. And it did during COVID, but it came back up, and I think the airlines are expecting like a 4% increase over last year in travel. But consumer travel has gone way up. Businesses are being a little bit more savvy about the way they travel. Yeah, to meetings, to company events, but there's no need for me, like when I was a VP of sales, traveling to California for one major meeting and trying to make, up the time with a couple of extra meetings to make it productive, or flying to Florida for one meeting or a case with a doctor. Some of those things can be done virtually. Like now people prefer to meet people first online. I had a Zoom call, a Google Meet call at 7 o'clock last night. It was very productive. It was great. Met somebody for the first time. But, that's how we're doing it today. So one of the things I've learned about virtual at scale is that when we do meet people over Zoom, and if you're seeing me or media like this podcast or Google Meet, then when we see people for the first time, we're looking and we're looking at them and we're looking at their actions and we're having interaction with them. And the same thing is going on, just in a slightly different way than if we were to meet that individual in person. So the virtual at scale helps because we still have to build business. We still have to strengthen and build and form new relationships. We do, right? So when we do that, we have to do it differently because somebody's not going to fly halfway across the United States to meet us. And so a lot of deals are being closed and not even having met somebody. So boy, things have changed, right? But we can't discount relationships because of it. So we have to be a little bit more astute when we're meeting someone for the first time because the medium in which we're meeting them is different. So my recommendation to you as a salesperson, a business owner, or colleague, or somebody in sales that's meeting somebody for the first time, don't discount your manners, don't discount your personality style, your mannerisms, the way you interact. You got to be the best version of yourself all the time. You can't show up, disheveled, right? Well, I'm casual today. I'm actually at my daughter's house. My granddaughter is not feeling well, so I volunteered to come over and work from here instead of my office. See, there's the mobility, right? But you still have to be genuinely interested in people. The 4 pillars stand taller and more firm than ever today, and they're even more important because it's not as easy, right? Honesty, integrity, knowledge, and genuine interest. I'll be preaching that until, the day, that Jesus says it's your time. But honesty, integrity, knowledge, and genuine interest in people. That's where it all goes, right? That's the start of everything because that builds, people get to see your character. And they get it to come through the screen. They're watching you. I often joked, and I joked about it last night, it takes about 7 seconds for someone to assess you, right? That's 1 second short of a successful bull ride. So people are still looking at you on the screen. They're looking, if you're in your office, they're looking at if they're seeing your desk, or they're looking behind you to see what pictures you have on the wall. So they're looking to see the way that you communicate. At least I do. I like to see, who I'm speaking with. Am I speaking to somebody who's real analytical, that's going to take the time and want to hear all the information? Am I speaking to somebody that's going at 100 miles an hour and wants a short meeting, and I better have, the Cliff Notes version ready to go? I need to have all that. I need to be astute enough to see that. When we do that, and we can form and build relationships virtually at scale, when we actually meet those people, it's like we already know them. And I hope you do, because that's the way that we still need to build relationships. And I don't think we totally do that through the medium that we're in right now, this virtual at scale. I think it's fantastic. I think it's the way we need to do things. But obviously it's not going to change. It's not going to go back to the way it was. But we can definitely adapt. We're humans. One of the biggest things we've been able to do over, thousands of years is to adapt to our environment. But we have to be cautious. Virtual at scale, yes. Be more astute. Don't change who you are because it's virtual at scale. If you're going to a meeting that's virtual at scale, treat that meeting like you were in person. I think that's my best advice. Treat that meeting like you were there, like that person sitting across from you, like you're sitting across from me now, whether you're on your phone or your laptop or whatever. We're here together, right? And I have to be looking at you. I have to be looking at you in the eye, right? I can't be going this on my cell phone over here and going, yeah, oh, what was that? Yeah, because people are watching you and they can tell whether you're interested or not. Genuine interest in people is your pathway to building a relationship and, in the process, a sale. But the relationship is what you're after. The long-term relationship will get you sales long-term, right? So genuine interest in people shows through this screen. I'm genuinely interested in you and your success. I hope that comes through, right? And anybody that I speak to, if I'm speaking to somebody, I want to know more about them, right? Now I have to communicate in the way that they like to receive information. So, I have to adapt, right? But I hope that they see when they're done with that call that Gerry Savage is someone that they want to do business with, right? Because Gerry's genuinely interested in me. Why? Because I was able to find common ground with that person, even virtually at scale, right? We were able to have a conversation. We're able to find some things out about that person. And then when I started the discussion that we were going to have for that meeting, then it went a lot better because that person, there was an inkling of trust. They started that know, like, and trust process right there. 7 seconds into this call, right? They said, okay, well, he looks like somebody I can trust. He's presentable. He tries to, he's looking at me. He's paying attention, right? He's listening to me. He's asking good questions, right? So where am I going with all of this? It goes right back to how I started this. How are you presenting yourself, whether it's virtual at scale or whether you're in person? I want to go back to that because if you're getting together with your family or friends, are you buried in your cell phone, or are you giving them the time they deserve out of respect for them? That's the key, right? So, yeah, boy, times have changed. But we're going to all adapt, and we're going to be better for it. And, we just have to be cautious, and we have to be aware of how we're doing it, right? We can't lose the fact, or we can't lose the ability to build relationships because we're moving at light speed. Business is moving faster than ever. We're doing calls instead of traveling to meetings. It's all okay. It's all good. But we can't lose that innate ability to converse, to build relationships, strengthen our relationships. Because ultimately, if we do, it's going to strengthen our business. It's going to strengthen our relationships with the people that we meet along the way, and we'll make new friends. And, that's what it's all about. We're human. So I hope this has, sprouted a little bit of interest in you, and I hope this has made you think a little bit today. It sure has made me contemplate a few different things. So Hey, until next time, it's been a pleasure. This is Gerry Savage, and this has been The Savage Edge.